There, you make me laugh.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome you all to India HR Live, where change agents transform the world of HR. Well, today we have lined up a fantastic panel for you all, which is amazing. So stay tuned. And this is going to be unlike any of our regular show. As you can see, our guests, those are pretty much excited to talk to you all. And we are going to do a recruiters roundtable with Recruiting Animal crew. So if you haven't heard the name Recruiting Animal, and if you are in recruiting or probably in HR, that's a shame, I must tell you. All right, so if you don't know Animal, search on Google. And even search on Twitter, you will be able to pull that up.
Cut it out! You're going on too long, okay?
And there we go.
That's it.
In a minute.
Where is he?
Here's how we usually start the show, with a song. And so
All right,
I picked the song. Everybody knows. You know that song by Gnarls what's his name? Gnarls Barkley?
Oh my God.
You say I'm crazy. You know what? Who wants to do it with me? Nisha, do you know that? Nisha, do you know it? You say I'm crazy. Come on. You say I'm crazy. You say I'm crazy.
Oh, that's amazing.
Probably. Come on. Look at that. These are
notes. That wasn't in the notes, Animal.
Emmy's gonna join you, Animal.
She's right. You did not put it in the draft notes.
So what? You know that song already.
We weren't prepared.
No problem at all. Just roll with, the fun game.
What about
Alrighty,
Bruce?
so that's Animal.
Bruce likes to sing. Bruce is a singer.
So that's Animal, and you have met. He is the host of #1 recruiting calling show. You should check it out. So let's meet our guests. I'm not doing all those boring stuff in the very beginning itself.
Good.
Let's get right to it. That's what Animal says. So let's get right to it and meet our guests. So first of all, Animal, and then after that we will meet one by one. So Animal, can you say hi to our audience?
Hi, everybody.
Alrighty.
Let's go. The pace.
Okay,
Don't
take
make
it
me
forward.
look bad.
Take it
Don't
forward,
make us look bad.
everyone.
Don't make us look bad. We're North America. We move a little faster, okay? So just keep the pace going. You can't let people fall asleep. Okay.
Exactly. So take it forward, everyone. Tell us who you are and what you do. Will.
So I'm a global sales and marketing recruiter. I've been in the industry about 20 years, and a blogger. I have my own site, Bullseye Recruiting, and you can find me at Will Recruits.
Oh, fantastic. And the next, Maureen.
Hi, I'm a phone sourcer. I tweet on Twitter at Maureen Sharab. I hope you'll follow me. My company's name is TechTrack. You can find it at www.techtrack.com. I write quite a bit about phone sourcing, and I hope you'll find my subject interesting today.
Boy, oh boy.
And Jeremy. Well, Jeremy has been here, and welcome back again.
Thanks for having me.
India HR Live.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm Jeremy Roberts. I'm with SourceCon.
He's the big boss at SourceCon.
Big boss.
There is no big boss.
Yeah, you're the big boss, and I saw people complaining on Twitter that you blocked Indians from playing in the SourceCon challenge. You better explain it. You better explain it to them now.
I told them they could participate, but to win and participate in the final round, they needed to be on site at the conference. So if they would have won the first round, they could have participated in the final round of the challenge. But really, I can't pay for people to fly from India to go to the conference. I can give them a pass to get in, but that's it.
Okay.
All right. Sorry, y'all. Can you see Jeremy? I can see only his profile picture. How about you all?
I see him. We see him.
All right. So I guess our audience can also see him. All right. Let's move on. Next, Celinda Appleby. Hey, Celinda. Tell us who you are.
So I'm Celinda. I tweet at Celinda Appleby. Super simple. Can't forget that. I'm with HP. I run our global digital media program for talent acquisition, which is a big mouthful of a title. And that's me.
Alrighty, thank you so much. And Blake, nice to meet you.
Hey, good to meet you. I'm Blake Cabot. I've been recruiting and sourcing for about 19 years now, former military guy. So I'm currently a contractor out at a company called Foresight, Chicago, Illinois. Looking for security and Oracle
Boy,
folks.
you got terrible sound. What's wrong with your mic?
It's just you.
That's okay. That's okay.
What's the Marine motto? Semper Paratus?
Dude, I'm not a Marine.
Oh, I thought you were a Marine. Oh, okay. Semper Fi. That's it. Semper Fi. Go ahead. Sorry.
All right. All right. Well, thank you, Blake. And we have Derek. Wow. That is such a nice cap right there.
Derek, you're up.
Am I up?
Derek, you're on.
Go, Derek, go.
Yeah.
Wow, everything's breaking up here. What's happening?
What's happening? Tell us who you are. Again, welcome back to India HR Live. You have been on a fantastic show, and thank you so much for being here again.
Well, you're welcome. Thanks for having me back. Derek Zeller. I'm with. I'm on Twitter at Darediver. I'm the managing editor of recruiting tools and recruiting blogs. So check us out. We got a lot of cool stuff to talk about on that site. I've been recruiting 18 years, and I'm coming down to Australia and New Zealand next in November with ATS events. I'll be speaking with Matt Charney and Mark Todorici. So if you're in the area, if you want to fly down from India, or if you're in Australia or New Zealand, come see us.
Wonderful. So congratulations for the new role, Derek.
Thank you.
You know what? I got to tell you something. On the Recruiting Animal show, it's different from your show. We don't say great after somebody says something, okay? We don't pat them on the back. That's not the way it's supposed to work.
Oh.
We're not nice on the Recruiting Animal show, is what he's saying.
All right, let's move on to Amy, the wonderful, beautiful Amy.
Hi. I'm Amy Alla. I'm a recruiter for Microsoft. I've been in recruiting for about 15 years. I'm a baby next to these guys, apparently. And I'm also, according to Animal, the most cocksure recruiter on the internet.
She is.
Wow, that is awesome. So let's move on to the topic. So you have met, our entire panelists, and by now you know they are the seasoned experts in recruiting. So we are here to talk more about the standard issues in the recruiting industry. And as you all know, the new age of recruiting has given a birth to social recruiting, mobile recruiting, and some of them consider it as jargon like employer branding and candidate experience. So let's wait and hear from Recruiting Animal for the first time, because on his show we don't get a good review for social recruiting. Why it is?
No, but I don't want to talk. I don't want to start off with.
I know why it is. Because he's got I know why it is, because he's got a box. You can see why it is. Look behind him. There's a box of files.
I put that there especially for this show, okay?
Oh.
Now, I got a message to start the show off with. It's for Indian recruiters. You
Go ahead.
You guys are doing something wrong. When we think of Indian recruiters, the first word that comes to mind is spammers, okay? First, a few years ago, we started getting these emails with a long list of, I've got all these IT guys for you. I didn't ask for that list, but they were hammering with every day. I was getting these emails. Now, they brought in these endorsements on LinkedIn. Who endorses me on LinkedIn? People I don't know in India every day. Why? I always wonder, why are they doing that? And the final thing, I've got a Facebook group, facebookrecruiter.com. It's for discussing recruiting. It says, don't post your job orders here, but people do it. And who does it the most? The Indian recruiters. Smarten up, you guys. Don't be spammers. And if you don't believe me, ask anybody else here. Amy smiling. You know it's true, don't you?
How about you, Amy? Do you have the same thought?
I get hot lists all the time, which I can never do anything with. They absolutely are useless to me. But I never get endorsements.
You know what I get recently is, hey, I'm up for my annual review with my manager. Can you give me a 365 feedback? Like, why am I going to give you a 365 feedback? We've never met.
So true.
That is absolutely correct. But when it comes to India recruiters, and we have expert recruiters over here, what does that one thing that you see that they should be, doing differently?
Stop
Go ahead,
spamming. Stop spamming. That's number one.
So how should they connect? How should they connect with the peer recruiters? Let's start from there.
Somebody else talk.
Yeah, go ahead. So I'm not at this time on this show. I'm not pointing to anyone unless I know he or she is the subject matter
Just
expert.
pick anyone. They won't say anything unless you push them. Okay, trust me. I know.
I'll tell
All
you.
right, so Linda, you go ahead.
So I agree that people spam a lot, and I feel like recruiters get this bad rap sometimes that you wanted to share a job. But my biggest point of advice would be to find a way to connect. It's not about the job you're trying to fill. It's all about networking. And I know I get a gazillion emails. We all do. So if you're sending me a job that you want me to fill or a candidate you want me to hire, let's find a common ground first. And brand yourself as the expert, so I know that I want to talk to you. I think that a lot of recruiters miss that mark. No one on this call, of course, but in general.
Absolutely. So, and one point that Animal said is about the endorsement. So, who should endorse others if somebody?
No one.
Or in Animal's case, but I'm just saying, somebody who knows, somebody who has listened to his shows, knows him probably through online, through his blog, through his podcast, and through his speaking session, might have endorsed him. That can be the reason. But how about if a stranger, totally stranger, who doesn't know of you, endorsing? Derek, do you have any thoughts on that?
Jerry's not here. Bruce disappeared.
No, she said Derek.
Oh,
Derek.
Sorry.
no, he's out to the phone.
I'm afraid for Bruce, by the way.
Kind of hat.
What happened to our Bruce?
For our audience, Bruce was a person who joined in on our show who was in schedule. But they are making fun of him. That's all right. Yeah, go ahead, Derek.
Here's the thing: if you're gonna send out mass email, make sure you're sending it to the right people. Sending out 10 emails to me is okay if it's a spot check email. So if I've looked at your resume, I know what you do. I want to talk with you. I want to set up a time to speak with you. And out of those 10 people, I know exactly what you guys are doing. The biggest problem is that you just go through and you find a keyword. I'm writing a blog about this right now. Mm-hmm. I got an email yesterday for a Lotus Notes job. A Lotus Notes developer job.
You know Lotus Notes. You told me that. I've heard you say that at conferences.
I used Lotus Notes 10 years ago. Does that count?
I was trying to get a job with Microsoft, so I was trying to impress them as well. Apparently, I didn't do a good job. So the issue is that you're just you're scraping through 1,000 resumes, sending 1,000 emails, and hoping that 1 or 2 people are going to call you back, and it's really bad for the industry. The candidates are tuning us out.
Yeah, that's true.
Right. Yeah. So let's move on to the next topic because we have listed out a lot of topics on our blog.
I want to choose the next topic. I have a beef with our buddy Derek here. When he was on your show before, he started talking about culture. Culture is always a big topic now on every article. There's always culture, and they say that's the most important thing about hiring today. Culture. What did Derek talk about when he started telling you how you figure out the culture? Take a look at what the people are wearing. If they're dressed like they shop at the Gap, well, it's a very relaxed place. If they are wearing suits, well, then everything is formal. This culture stuff is just baloney. I mean, that's what it amounts to. It's something, a little clue. It's like, when those paleontologists, they find a footprint from a dinosaur, they can figure out they guess what the whole thing is like. That's what Derek was doing. Oh, he's not wearing a tie. He's wearing jeans. I can figure out what the whole company is like. Yeah, that's culture. It's baloney, and culture doesn't play much role at all in recruiting, in my opinion. If someone wants to disagree with me, go ahead.
I disagree, Animal. I think culture plays a key role in today's hiring. I mean, it is a competitive environment out there. So
I'll bet he doesn't give one example. He just makes a declaration.
No. I mean,
give us some examples, Will.
Sure. So, the company I met with today has a distinct culture, and you know, we may not offer the exact amount of pay, but we have to drive the candidates to the role, and it has to be something cool and innovative, and the environment has to be cool. I mean, you look at something like Facebook; it's an open environment, and you know, people are looking for a specific, you know, environment to be able to work in, and you know, it does make a difference. Culture does.
Did you say something? Because I didn't understand it. Did you describe the culture at your company? Can anybody else on the air with us right now describe the culture at his company after he apparently just told us what it was?
My culture is very laid back, and the people there work hard, and they're building something really cool, something that hasn't been done before. And you know, someone has to have a desire to do that, to succeed. And I think to recruit people, it's important for that culture to be there.
I agree with Will, 100%. I think that people hire people, and that yes, we start off by looking at resumes, but it depends on who sits in front of you, who you're going to end up bonding with. If the candidates have the same skill set and background, you're going to pick the one that matches your company culture. And I put in quotations because that depends for everyone. You know, at HP we hire innovators. We want to hire people that, you know, are like our founders, that are going to create cool things. So I definitely think culture plays a big role.
Yeah, that's a statement.
This is all well and good for IT, right? Because we all talk about, you know, we're doing really cool V1 stuff. We have confidential things that nobody's ever built before. But what if I'm a recruiter for a manufacturing company? Like, I just want people to show up. You know, I want somebody that will drive 30 miles in the middle of nowhere wherever my facility is. So it's not, this is really more of a I'm a cool hip tech company conversation, and not necessarily related to all of recruiting across 1,000 different industries.
No, I don't think so, because like look at like the healthcare industry, right? So you want to bring in like nurses, and you're going to be fighting against what hospital's better, and you know, whatever they offer, whether it's flex schedule or I think it applies to all industries.
It is. It does apply to all industry, and especially animal. But for your thought, I would highly agree with Celinda and Will, because you know, we really want to work with somebody who can spend the time with us, right? Especially look at the people that we have selected or we have over here. It is also part of the culture. Let's forget about big organization or even small organization. Let's focus about this particular group. Why did we talk to this particular group? Why are we talking to this particular group? Because we know they would like to roll with us, because we know they would enjoy being with us. They would enjoy talking with us. That's the reason we have teamed up, right? So
how many of you guys coach your candidates? That's what I want to know. Because like, you talk about culture. I mean, a good recruiter figures out the culture at the company, and then they explain that to the candidate, and they coach the candidate on what to do, and they coach the hiring manager on what to ask, and you put all the pieces together, and then they get the job.
Explain how you explain the culture to a candidate. Because I listened to Will, I listened to Celinda, I just listened to Nisha. None of them described the culture.
Well,
he said it's laid back. That's it.
So if I'm a third-party recruiter, I'm like, okay. So when you talk to Will, Will's like, he'll tell you it's a really laid-back culture. We do new things nobody's ever done before. So then you turn around and you call your candidate. You turn around and you call your candidate. No, listen, Animal. I'm not saying that's a good culture or a good description of culture.
That's not culture.
You turn around and call your candidate. Now, when you talk to Will, what Will wants to know is that you're laid back, but you're driven to create things nobody's ever created. And you need to get that across to Will. And then I've already sent 3 people to Will, and Will's told me stupid things they said. So then I'm like, don't say these stupid things.
True.
And make sure he understands how excited you are to create something that's never been created and that you're laid back.
But then how long does that person last?
If I'm a third-party recruiter and I get a fee, 60 days is good, right?
That's the takeaway.
It's a really bad way of looking at it, but
it is. But I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Like if you're gonna say culture is important, you better be darn good at explaining it, and you better be darn good at attracting candidates.
So
so the problem with this whole culture conversation is recruiters are still gold based on how many people they fill how many jobs they fill each month. And then you go to an HR meeting, and all they tell you is important is culture. And it's like, no, you yelled at me because I didn't fill enough jobs last month.
That's right.
So don't give recruiters goals based on fills, and then tell them to hire based on culture, because you're never going to get that. You're going to get people who do whatever it takes to fill.
Make a fill.
If they have to fill 20 jobs a month to not get fired, they're going to fill 20 jobs a month by telling people how to fit into the culture in the interview, and then you're done.
You can fake culture.
So that's my problem. I'm not saying you shouldn't hire on culture. I'm saying recruiter goals don't fit that goal. It's a waste of time.
I hear it.
But don't you say that like a good recruiter would look to hire culture? Like for instance, let's just say like, one of our top schools is Stanford. So we know that the kids that come out of there, and I shouldn't say kids, but whatever, are going to fit our tech model, right? Wouldn't you as a good recruiter go out and look for people that have that background?
Yeah, because it's easier, but...
And to Jeremy's point, that's part of the pushback that a good recruiter should be able to do is that, I only hired 3 people this month, but here's where they came from, and here's why they're the right fit, and here's why they're going to stick, versus going out and hiring 5 or 6 that you're going to lose 2 in the first 90 days.
Right.
Well,
and hope their bonus isn't based on their fills, because they would never do away with their bonus just because nobody quit in 18 months.
Well, this is actually a debatable topic, and in fact, we have highlighted another topic like why do recruiters hate HR and even the hiring managers. So one of the things that we have noticed is recruiters in general are of hackers minded, because they know how to read the Boolean search, and especially what Jeremy has said, they are really valuing on the contract and the bills. But when it comes to what Celinda has, especially culture, it can be a jargon, but mainly looking for what are the values that a candidate possesses, which would ultimately match up with that organization's values or culture. That's generally we normally look, right?
So I appreciate people like Celinda, because Celinda's role is to create a bigger candidate funnel, so then we can sit and play culture games and pick people we think fit the culture and things like that. But if the people are not attracted and aware of the culture, you're scraping the bottom of the barrel to find people who can actually do the work.
Not one of you has described culture yet. What Celinda said was when you get someone in front of you, you see if you like them or not. That's their personality. That's not the culture. If you're talking about, they like to work on new things, that's really a project. I mean, laid back, that's a culture. It's so
animal. It's actually the values. It's actually
what
the values and behavior.
The values are all the same. We want someone with integrity. We want someone who works hard. We want someone who's honest. It's all the same crap. It's mom's apple pie. Okay?
It's true. 100%. You're all correct. But I think that even though every company has their values and their goals, and we all mirror each other, it's how they're presented on a daily basis. And I wish I could give you like a solid answer for HP, but we have like we sit in 370 countries, and cultural differences play into effect. So what we do in Palo Alto is different than what we do in Bangalore. So I can't give you like one solid. At the end of the day, we hire social innovators that love to innovate. Even if you're in marketing, you're going to be a hard worker. But in Bangalore, that person's going to be different than they're going to be in Palo Alto.
Yeah, they'll be getting $1 an hour in Bangalore. That's the difference.
All right, guys. So how about if we...
This is not a cost and benefits conversation. Those analysts are not on the call.
This can be a debate. So how about if we move on with another topic so that we can bring Maureen and others
already.
Sure. So
now let's focus in on animal real quick. A guy in a beaver hat sitting in the middle of file boxes.
You know what? Will Thompson has a cowboy hat. Will Thompson has a cowboy hat. He's in Texas. I'm in Canada. Okay, I wear my national dress on TV. There you go.
All right, guys, we're about halfway through.
Dude, it's not Thanksgiving yet. That's a black hat.
You're right. I need to get another hat.
Yeah,
Oh
it's
my God.
straw. It's
So-
still straw season.
Still straw season here.
It
Only
is.
next
it
You know what? I've got another topic, Nisha. Relationship recruiting. People are always saying you have to have a relationship to recruit somebody, you know? And they say, oh, would you walk up to someone at a party that you don't know and ask them to go to bed with you or something like that? You know what? I'm not a stranger at a party when I call you. I'm a headhunter. And, you know, if I saw your resume on LinkedIn, that's not a party. That's a resume database where you put your profile. So don't tell me I have to build a relationship before I call you. We're already in a relationship. That's the
A social
context.
contract. It's a social contract. I put my stuff out there. Animals looking for it. We can talk.
All right. So let's bring on Maureen to the show because she has
Yeah,
something
come
smart
on.
to say about phone sourcing and building a relationship. And that way, we will be able to connect with that untapped talent. So, Maureen, yeah, tell us a little bit more about what you wanted to share about the role of phone when it comes to sourcing and recruiting.
Well, the telephone today gets somewhat of a bad rap because not a lot of people are keen to use it in sourcing, and I'm a proponent of using the telephone. Animal and I had a discussion a couple days ago on Facebook. He asked for a piece of information, and I'm going to let Animal step in here for a moment and give his.
No, you talk.
Yes, I'm going to let Animal give his take on what happened, and then I'll comment.
Okay.
Do share.
I found the name of somebody, if I remember, and I told Maureen, and she called the head office in Pennsylvania somewhere and got her extension number, right? That's what you did. Is that right?
Got a direct dial for you.
Yeah, great.
And you had asked about some site. You had asked the group about the veracity of some site. And
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. Lead otter. That was it. Lead otter.
You were waiting for an answer. But my point in that discussion was that the telephone is very fast. It's a matter of picking it up, calling headquarters, asking for someone's direct dial. And many times you'll be given that direct dial and you'll be given immediate access to a person. And the next step is to call that person and to talk to that person. It's a very straightforward, simple approach that gets lost in today's internet focus on internet sourcing.
I want to ask Maureen a question. Okay, so before people start building phone sourcing, shops in India, how important is dialect in phone sourcing? I mean, because a lot of phone sourcing is trust, and if you call with an accent or you call, without a soothing kind of presence. Animal's got some oatmeal there.
No, Will told me, when Will was on the show, he said it's good to have your cereal bowl on the video interview, right? So I brought mine.
I have my coffee cup over here.
You said bring something to drink. I'm here with my water.
There you go.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, I'm
that's
on
great.
vacation. I'm going to go get my drink.
So to Jeremy's
So
point,
how important is dialect? I mean, I know if someone calls me, it's a cold call, and there's a big accent and an airy background, and then somebody 2 feet away giggling, I know for a fact it's not somebody I should give any information to, right?
It's a big turnoff.
So for the people in India listening, if you were setting up a phone sourcing operation over there, what are the things that if you can't get over this hurdle, if you don't have a dialect coach, if you don't have a good technology situation, you shouldn't even try phone sourcing? Can we just throw that out there?
I would beg to differ. I mean, I work for a global company. I talk to people with accents all the time. So for me, like, accents are a normal thing. I think what's going to be important.
But if I get a call on my cell phone and they're like, I don't know the number, strong accent, an airy connection, and somebody else 3 feet away from them, I hang up immediately because I know it's nothing urgent. It's not my kid's school. It's not really somebody I work with. it's a call center of some sort. I know that immediately. I'm not judging accents.
Right. Okay. Well, you said accent.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
But
I thought so
the
when
other
you said
on
accent.
top of that though, if you're phone sourcing in New York, you should fake an accent and be a little bit more bossy. If you're phone sourcing in Omaha, have a neutral accent. If you're, so accents are important.
You know, Jeremy, I've seen that recruiters from India who are working from India for the U.S. companies, or probably Indian recruiters who based out of United States and then working from here, they have probably name of a traditional Indian name Lakshmi Patel or something. So they need to have to come up with an American name in order to feel welcomed or even considerable from the pure recruiters or the client members from United States. So what Jeremy has pointed out is an important concept that I have noticed over here, especially the accent. I don't see the difference when it comes to explaining what they feel, but when it comes to how the other people perceive. Because for me, I know after talking to you guys, you might have noticed in my accent, there's a little bit of a British accent coming from, because we based out of that particular language. But when it comes to United States, the accent is entirely different. So chances are there people may be perceived differently. So how about Maureen? We would have to get some expert opinion on this.
Jeremy, I wouldn't say don't try it. In phone sourcing, there are a couple different approaches. When I say phone sourcing, what I'm speaking about is when I'm calling a company and I'm looking for information. That information might be competitive intelligence, or that information might be organizational intelligence. And if I'm speaking with a gatekeeper and that gatekeeper has to struggle to understand me, it's much harder for me to obtain that information from her. So the more blocks you can take away, the easier it is for the gatekeeper to understand you, the less questions she has to ask you, the better the process will move for you. Now, in another part of what I do, which is calling
Maureen,
candidates to
pick it up. Pick it up. Talk a little faster, okay?
the other part of what I do which is candidate engagement. I don't think it matters as much because people are expecting calls, and if there's an accent or a heavy accent is more difficult to overcome. But an accent, people are becoming more accustomed to accents. So in no case would I say don't do it, but be very cautious if you're trying to set up a phone sourcing group that's going to be looking for competitive intelligence or organizational intelligence like I do.
Yeah, so I guess my whole thing for asking that is that if I'm calling trying to get information, you don't want to lie to the people, but you want it to feel to those people like you're supposed to be on the phone. Like you know how they would talk to each other at that hospital. If you're a doctor calling another doctor who's back in the OR, then you're like, say I'm calling Zeller. Hey, this is Roberts. I need to speak with Zeller. That's how a doctor would talk if they were in a hurry. You know what I'm saying? So you're acting like they would act, even though you're not lying. You're putting on that sort of front.
Right.
So if you call in with an accent, seeking permission, hi, I hate to bother you. I'm here. I want to know more about, you're getting nothing. Nothing.
No way.
So how about this, Jeremy? How about this, Jeremy? In an Indian recruiter who has an Americanized name, probably Sam or Chris or something, and then when they talk, their accent is totally Indian. How do you feel that?
Negative, he said. He already told you negative, and I'm going to agree with him. I'm from an immigrant family, so I got lots of accents in my family of all sorts. But I think you're better off trying to minimize your accent, and all that means is you practice for 10 minutes a day. And I will advise you, Nisha, you don't have an English accent. You have a very strong Indian accent. I'll bet if you practiced 5 minutes a day reading and deliberately practiced trying to sound like an American, you'd be you'd have a better flow of the way you speak English. I think it's an asset. I'm going to agree with Jeremy.
Indeed.
Although
So
I have to admit, I know
I have
lots of people who have accents in Toronto who are multimillionaires. I mean, it will not stop you from making money. I just think it sounds better.
I have a good friend who about 5 years ago he set up a sourcing function over in India. I forget the city. I wish I could tell you, but he has 5 employees that he has an office over there with, and he spends about 3 weeks every quarter over there. And they're some of his hardest working employees, and they were only doing internet-based sourcing for him. And this last year, he was like, you know what? They're the most loyal employees I have, and I'm sure he's saving money by working with them. It's a good price point for him as well. But he hired a dialect coach for his team, and so they each of them gets 1 hour with a dialect coach each week. It's a licensed speech pathologist from the U.S. and they do Google Hangouts with a speech pathologist from the U.S. for dialect coaching. So I think if you're going to try to recruit and source using the phone from India, that is the best investment you could ever make.
I agree.
Indeed.
I was doing some research, and there's a product called Say You Say. I haven't looked into it yet, but it's some type of a dialect coach. Say You Say.
I want to commend Will for not jumping in with a company commercial during this conversation. Will, where do you work?
Where do I work? Rosetta's done.
Okay.
All right. All right. So let's segue to the next topic, which is video, because we talked about the phone sourcing, and how about video when it comes to video and then the experience of providing a candidate experience through video interviewing. So who can talk about that?
Will.
Yeah, Bill, go ahead.
Ask the question again. I'm sorry.
No, we were kind of talking about phone sourcing, and let's segue to the video interviewing and how is that interface between candidates and recruiters when it comes to interacting through a video platform.
Yeah, so I recruit globally, and I talked about this on Animal Show, and I joke with him, but I think that video interviewing is becoming more prevalent. I use it daily. I use Skype to communicate with people around the globe, and I think it's a good way to learn a little bit about them and find out how they act. You can see their facial expressions, what's going on in their mind. You can see how what's in their background to see how clean and neat they are, and so I think it's a great tool to be able to evaluate talent rather than flying people all over the world to talk. And I don't have the ability to meet everybody, but like this Hangout, we're having the ability to have a real live conversation. So I'm a big fan of video interviewing, and I think it's going to be more prevalent in the near future.
So I think video interviewing is a big deal. I met Will for the first time about 3 weeks ago, and we had never met. And honestly, I didn't realize we had never met because we've done so many of these. So.
What about Blake? Blake hasn't said a word. He's a smart guy. He's a smart guy. Let the people who are quiet do some talking. I'll be quiet.
That was my biggest learning curve in life. I needed a mute button my whole life, so I'm going to push my mute button.
I like people who talk, but I mean, I'm surprised. Amy's usually
Yeah, I've already been asked why I'm so quiet, and my boyfriend can't believe I'm giving people a chance to talk. So.
Yeah, I agree with him.
I'm on vacation, FYI.
Ask Blake a question, okay?
Animal. Gary Albright has an interesting product in verbal summary. He doesn't talk about it much anymore.
No, it's finished. Let Blake answer. Ask Blake. Somebody ask Blake a question.
That's an interesting product.
Can you hear me?
He was way ahead of his time.
Yes, we can hear you, Blake. So we were kind of talking about video interviewing, but then tell us your experience when it comes to, recruiting military professionals or even veterans. How does that play out?
I don't do a lot of that anymore.
Uh-huh.
I do use the video quite a bit for interviewing. We've got offices all over the country, and rather than flying managers and people into certain offices to do big panel interviews, we'll put 4 or 5 managers on a video call with a candidate. We also use HireVue, which that's a product that we can record it, and once you've got the video recorded, you can actually send the link out to all of your managers and let them take a look at it whenever it's convenient for them. They can provide feedback through the interface on there, so it's a great tool. HireVue is, but a lot of times it's failed, so we used Skype and different mediums such as Google Hangout. Yeah, video interviews we use that all the time, every day.
All right, so do you get biased while using video interviewing? Because sometimes the candidates may not be comfortable in order to look into the camera and talk, but probably they will be looking into the screen and they might be talking. So how about that bias case when it comes to video interviewing?
Yeah, it can go back to the culture thing. I had a great candidate on paper that was fantastic on the phone. Her in front of the manager out in the Baltimore area. She was going to be calling on a lot of the regulatory agencies, doing a lot of front-facing stuff. And front-facing, she was not. And the video interview, that totally killed her because she was not a person they were going to put in front of the client. But on paper, it was fantastic.
All right, so let's move on with the topic that we have on our blog, recruiters versus candidates. So that's going to be major discussions. How honest are candidates, and when do recruiters trust their gut? So Animal, can you kick off, and then we will chime in. I mean, we will ask with other.
Sorry, I was on Twitter. What did you ask me? I was letting Blake talk.
Oh, no problem. How honest are candidates, and when do recruiters trust their gut?
That's Kathy's question. I have no personal interest in that one.
So let me just call one thing out. The only way for Animal not to interject is to totally not listen. Did you guys notice that? He has to not be involved so he doesn't interrupt.
All right. So
all in or all out.
Right. Let someone else answer that question.
Derek, can you take up this question because you have been quiet for a while?
That's a good one, Jeremy.
Speak up.
When do you use your gut feel while hiring a candidate?
Derek, are you shy?
When I first got into this business, I was taught grew up in an agency, and when the first week, the owner of the company told me, I got off the phone, I really like this guy. This guy seems pretty cool. And my boss literally turned to me and he says, all candidates lie.
Yes. I got the same lesson.
He goes, they all are liars. And so I'm like, what does that mean? I go, well, my gut feeling says this guy's a pretty good guy. And it turns out the guy ends up getting the job in a company that they could never make a placement in over a year. They tried numerous times. This was exactly the person they were wanting, and I knew it. It was a gut feeling. Have I been burned in the past? Hell yeah, we all have. But you kind of have to have a little bit of a gut feeling. Sometimes you have to go, and swing the bat a couple of extra times because that candidate, maybe they were having a bad day. Maybe they didn't do a good video chat.
You're not answering her question. She asked if people lie, not what your gut feeling tells you.
Yeah,
okay?
So, can I tell a funny story? Can I tell a funny story?
Yeah.
One time, it was my first.
This is the guy who said I talk too much. Okay.
It was my first month in recruiting, and I had a candidate who called me, and she was like, Jeremy, I can't make it to the interview. And I was like, well, what happened? And she said, my husband died. And I was like, wow, that's horrible. That's the worst thing I've ever heard. And so I went to my manager. I was like, she can't interview. And, we needed a placement. And it was one of those places where we had a meeting every Friday with the whole, all the new people would go into a room with the manager and talk about all of our pending interviews. And so I went into the meeting. I was like, this lady's husband died. And the manager was like, she's lying to you. That is absolutely false. Watch this. And so he picks up the phone. It was a speaker phone, so we could all listen, and there are like these 6 new guys sitting around a table.
Share the shame.
Yeah, and the manager was like, I am going to call her, and I'll show you she made this up. And so he calls and confronts the lady. Next thing we know, we get a death certificate and, like, a letter, and, like they called the owner of the search firm. And so this guy totally tried to pin it on her that she was lying, but her husband actually died. So yeah, so she tried. He was positive that she was trying to pull one over on the new guy. No. Sorry.
All right, no problem. So
don't let that happen.
Hold on. A good liar would not have told a lie that you could check so easily. That's the key.
True. That's true.
Hey, Nisha, you know what? When any candidate in the United States says they can't go to work in 2 weeks because of a reason, they're lying. I don't know how it is in different countries. Like in London, they'll have to give a month notice. But every time that someone says, I can go to start work for you in a month, then there's a reason why they're not accepting the offer. 2 weeks standard. And anytime someone says 3 weeks or a month or 2 months before they can start, my success rate is astronomically low.
Yeah.
So,
they might be fishing for other options, I guess.
That's absolutely what they're doing. They're using it as leverage.
Yeah. So Amy,
I don't have that experience though. I mean, a lot of my guys are, they're wrapping up a project, and it takes us 2 weeks just to do a background check. I don't even let people give notice until that's done. So I don't have people start for sometimes a month to 6 weeks, depending on, where they're coming from, relocation, and that kind of stuff. So I've changed my view on that. I used to be a really hardline 2 week person, but not anymore.
Right. So, Amy, while we were talking about candidates lying about most of the, cases, how about we talk about the salary discussions? How and when to bring up the salary discussion with the candidate? And if so, how do you muster that?
As soon as you're talking about a specific role with the possibility of going to an interview, it needs to be discussed. It's, okay, we've identified we're probably looking at this particular role or this particular team. What are you at now, and what's your yes number? And those numbers may be different. Your yes number may be ridiculous, and I have to talk you down from that. But that needs to be brought up before there's ever a candidate hiring manager discussion.
All right. So when it comes to comparing the salary, we have a lot of websites like Blaster.com or Salary.com. So how do we kind of negotiate this deal?
Well, I don't have a problem going first if I have to. My numbers are what they are, and there is some flexibility. We do have ranges, but if you're going to get the top of the range, you better interview like it. I can't guarantee that you're going to get, the top 10%. It may not be that high. I don't know. Are you going to go in and wow them at that level? Maybe you're not. So, but I don't have a problem giving a range, but we need to be within a few $1,000s of each other before we get to an interview.
So what's your strategy? Do you go for a higher rate or do you for a lower rate?
No, I want people to get a big fat offer. I want
a reasonable one.
I want them to be absolutely thrilled with their offer. I want them to accept with no hesitation. I want them to feel good. I want them to feel like I was an advocate for them.
All right.
Yeah, I don't lowball. Ever.
So some of the techniques and tips for the candidates in order to, bring in the discussion of salary or probably negotiating, because some organization they don't even share the salary limit or probably the salary range. So, but in that case, how should they go about discussing or probably negotiating the salary with the recruiter?
Well, I think the candidates have to know where their boundaries are. I know if any of you wonderful people called me, I know what my number is to continue the discussion. So I'll just tell you. I'll just be upfront and say this is what it would take to pull me out of my current employer. And if we can keep talking at that level, that's great. If not, that's okay too. But candidates need to know what they want and what was their yes number. If they don't know that, then just
ask her 2 questions. Nisha, ask her 2 questions. What does she do when they won't give the salary? And she's got good stories about this. What's your salary? I don't want to say. I don't want you to lowball me. You tell me what you want to pay. That's number one. And the other one is when they tell you what they want, you come back with it and they say, "Oh, I want a little more." That's another issue, because some people say don't ever tell your candidate after the interview that everybody loved them, because then their egos get inflated and they want more money. So back to Amy or whoever wants to address.
Yeah.
Well, I would just say, we established those numbers pretty early on, and I'll even say, okay, you don't want to tell me your salary. I get it. You've been burned by recruiters before. You don't want to talk about it. here's where we're probably going to land. Is that a number you could say yes to and get them to a yes? Okay, fine. So then when we have that second discussion, now their head's blown up. Now they think they're worth 10 grand more. What's changed for you since we talked on this day and we settled on this number? Did you get a new certificate? Did you get a degree? Did you get more experience? What's changed for you that you're now a different candidate at a different salary level?
All right, so let's move on with another question that is all about relocation. Because, you know, when we negotiate with candidates, there are a lot of things coming up. Relocation, that is one thing. Another thing that if they need to join a little bit earlier, organizations are providing a little bit advances for that too. So how difficult it is to find a candidate who needs to relocate from one location to the other location. And the question, who can take up this question?
I relocate people all the time. In fact,
tell us your experience.
We're actually doing a little more international relocation than I've done before as well, but it really hasn't been an issue. I mean, we've got a pretty comprehensive package, and it seems to work for most people. I've only had a couple of oddball, exceptional requests, and we just haven't made those offers.
How does it work differently when it comes to nationally or internationally when it comes to relocation? What are some of the needs that they highlight?
Well, I mean, work authorization is a big one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, I mean, coming from Canada, it's fairly simple, but or even Australia, it's not too bad. India is a little tougher, but so as long as we can work out work authorization, or if it's like an H-1B transfer, that's fairly easy. But the biggest challenge in relocation is families. Every time. I've had every reload deal that's been killed has been because there's kids, there's a wife, there's a hometown they can't leave. It's something like that. It's always at the 11th hour, the wife freaks out and says, I don't want to quit my job, or I don't want to leave my family, or the kids are in high school, or something like that. You got to ferret that out much, much sooner in the process.
Alrighty.
Have you ever had a candidate I had a candidate one time. I always do the calls to the spouse to get things going. And,
accidentally call the home number.
That's a great strategy.
Yeah, accidentally call the home number, you know, when they're not home. And I called one.
Did you accidentally call or intentionally?
I called one. I had a doctor who was in the process of leaving his wife, and I didn't know it. And so the job was his way out. So I blew up my own deal by calling the lady.
Oh, see? A lot of games playing out.
You know, I'm like, hey, why don't you put your wife on the phone? I've got kids in this school district. Let me tell you about the school district.
I had the high school football coach give a tour of the gym. I had the band director hang out with the band kid. You know what I'm saying? Like I set up all kinds of tours.
Yeah,
that's great.
We'll bring families out for visits as well.
I think Nisha's a little more structured than we are. Sorry,
Probably.
Nisha.
Oh, no problem. So, so I wanted to take the next debatable topic. I'm not thinking it is a debatable topic, which is burning my blood, if I'm thinking about that, because some of the recruiters out there are totally fake. They don't even have the experience. They don't even have the knowledge of how to recruit. They don't even own or probably work in a recruiting agency. And they're totally anonymous on LinkedIn, sending LinkedIn invite, sending spam emails and messages. What's your take on that? And one point that I wanted to highlight over here, because when it comes to international recruiting, especially US and India, I can see tons and tons of recruiting agencies or even consulting agencies putting fake resumes out there, fake candidates out there. They don't even have a work authorization, but in order to get a work authorization, they are training this candidate, putting around 8 to 10 years of experience and marketing them. Have you ever dealt with these situations?
I don't understand the question.
Yeah, I didn't get the question.
But I'll tell you something. We've got a friend. I can't mention his name here. God forbid I should say something or change a word in what he told us online. But he says he doesn't want to be recognized online because he doesn't want all kinds of loser candidates approaching him. Those are the people who are going to find you. He said he'd rather call them directly. So he's not interested in employment branding or anything like that. We all know who that is, and I think that's a valid point of view. He says he doesn't even need a website.
But can we think that is a genuine? Because we cannot think that is a genuine recruiter.
It's true. It's true for him. He doesn't really. He says he's got a website. I've never seen it. He's got a blog which he writes on sometime, and he's from Indiana. Okay, in the middle of nowhere. In the middle of nowhere, and he just called. They call people that they want to recruit, and that's what a recruiter does. He doesn't have to build an employment brand. And there's something else. He's got a problem right now because on LinkedIn, he doesn't like people to see that he's looking at their profiles again and again because they might feel weird about him or start bugging him. So he likes to go on LinkedIn as anonymous. But now that's a problem for him because if he goes anonymous, I think. I can't remember what his problem was, but he likes to be anonymous, and if you were talking about online presence for recruiters, he'll say you don't really need one, and I tend to think he's right. It might be different for someone like Celinda, who's no longer here. They want tons of people applying to your company, but for the individual headhunter, I think my friend is correct. Open the floor to somebody else on that.
All right, so if anybody wants to add on to that?
Here's something you can ask them. How many people ask everybody here, how many people they recruited on Twitter last year? That's always a favorite question, okay? Go ahead.
Wow. Let's see.
I've got some data on that.
Yeah, please
hold on.
Please
well, give me 5 minutes.
I found a few candidates, but I don't think I've made an actual hire from it.
But then I guess Twitter is a great way to connect and engage the candidates online, right? So whether
how often are you a headhunter, Nisha? Are you a recruiter?
I am not a headhunter. I'm not in the job market right now. That is because of the legality of the United States. I'm not being allowed to work here, which is really crap.
I was just going to ask how many people you recruited on. How many people did you recruit on Twitter last year? You can promote it.
Animal, let me give you some stats. We surveyed 500 SourceCon readers responded to a survey. 24% of the people in those 500 that responded to our survey, 24% made a placement off of Twitter last year.
How many?
24 out of about 500. 24% of the people who responded.
How many?
I just said, did you make a placement?
Oh, there you go.
Did you have success hiring from this platform?
I'm impressed. Wow.
24% said yes to Twitter.
Yeah. Okay.
People are using it because I know. I guess the first interview of India HR Live was with the Philips HR team, and then they hired their social media expert from Twitter. So I know that one simple experience.
You didn't cover one topic. We're almost out of time, and that's how hiring managers are the stupidest people in the world.
Bring on.
And Derek's got the story. He's got the perfect story. Okay.
Take the floor, Derek.
The problem is that most hiring managers, most are good, but some, if they don't know something, they're afraid not to know something. So I had a hiring manager.
They're good at their job. They're not good at recruiting. That's it.
Right.
They're good at what they do, and that is not recruiting.
It's not. Sometimes they're not even good at what they do.
Yeah.
That was the real issue, Amy. The problem was I have a help desk manager who decided that they needed to replace a SQL Server DBA, a Microsoft SQL Server DBA. He didn't know what he was looking for. He gave me the wrong rec. He gave me the wrong amount of money that he could even pay. And he actually wanted to pay the person less for the same position. The person that had that position was making $10,000 more, but he wanted to pay $10,000 less. It was just really it was a bad circumstance. And once I literally had to go around him, go talk to the other DBA, and find out that this position was completely different than the position that he gave me. Once we figured, the other DBA and I figured this out, we rewrote the rec, and we had three interviews and one hire in less than a week. The biggest problem is that manager still, to this day, doesn't think he did anything wrong. And that's one of my biggest upsets about being a corporate recruiter was always been, you can't fight stupid. You can't cure it. You cannot cure stupid. You just can't cure it. And, he was just stupid. And yet he still has a job there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And how is that possible? When you screw up something that bad, and yet I'm the one getting yelled at.
Yep.
Anyone want to play that one with me?
I'm playing the violin. I'm playing the violin.
I know you are, Adam. I
Maureen.
love that story.
I have a theory about hiring managers, and I think part of it is they're so inundated with all this information that comes out of the staffing departments that, oh, we have all these tools, we can help you do this, we can help you do that, that they have no problem with hybridizing their jobs. And they want one person to do 3 things.
Yeah.
And they think that we can create miracles with all these tools that we have. And it's really become a problem. And I think it's leading to more and more hybridization in jobs.
I agree with that.
Sure.
Will should talk about this because I know that Will's had some issues. He's recruiting, he's onboarding, he's doing literally everything that an HR person should really be doing instead of doing actual sourcing and recruiting.
Yeah.
Yep.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Will.
let's go back to the basics with these guys and say, hey, this is really hard. I'm going to have to call into XYZ company and ABC, and I'm going to have to dig out these people, and then I'm going to have to call them and convince them that your job is better than that job, and this is what it takes. And instead of, all this hocus pocus and we can do this and we can do that.
All right, guys. So we are actually running out of time at this point. So let's wrap up the show with one single quote from everyone. How can recruiters and hiring managers collaborate? One single quote from everyone, and then we will wrap up the show.
Simplify.
Animal.
Simplify.
What was the prompt again?
How do you recommend recruiters and hiring managers should collaborate? What is that one single quote that you wanted to share?
Over-communicate, over-communicate, over-communicate.
Truthful communication.
Communication, simplify.
Trust,
Jeremy, you there?
but verify.
Yeah. Build credibility with your hiring manager. Become an expert. Help your hiring manager understand that while you're not necessarily an expert in what they do, you're an expert in what you do, and try to get some. Don't have a relationship where you're always talking up in a submissive way to the hiring manager. You need to consult with them. So
Push back.
That's
yeah,
great.
push back and own what you do, just like they own what they do.
Yep.
Right. Well, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, just the key to success, I think, with hiring managers is just over communicating. Just keep, because they're going to say that there's a disconnect if you consistently talk about one-on-ones all the time. I think it's going to help out tremendously with your recruitment process. And then, yeah, I mean, like Maureen said, just push back. Do what you got to do.
Right. Animal.
Read my lips.
Alrighty, guys. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with us and sharing your thoughts and insights and making the show more fun and delightful. And namaste. That's from Animal. Animal was the one who has done the entire coordination, talking to all of our panelists on Facebook, and then engaging them and building that rapport when it comes to bringing that fun factor. So thank you so much to Animal.
Bye, everybody.
And bye, everyone, and to all of our audience, thank you so much for joining here. I know in India it is a busy, busy time. Durga Puja is happening, Navratri is happening, so everybody, this time, everybody should be at the temple. But unless you choose to be here and wanting to learn from our panelists, which we really, really appreciate, and thank you so much for your support.
Cool.
Thanks for having us.
Bye.
Thanks,
Bye,
guys.
everyone.
See you.
We'll talk to you
Bye.
soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.